Welcome back to Shit Talk Fridays, everybody. I'm Jeanna.
And I'm Evo.
Happy Friday, Evo.
Happy Friday, Jeanna.
We're drinking. Let's fucking cheers. I can smell the tequila from here.
I mean, is there anything less?
No, because I've learned that anything other than this gives me a fucking headache.
You know what? And shout out to Don Julio. I feel like I just want to put that out there because, like, we've literally been drinking this on the regular. It's like our tequila of choice.
On the regular schmegula?
On the regular schmegula. So I just wanted to put that out there. Don Julio Añejo.
Yo, Don Julio, what's good?
Send us a bottle, please.
Hook a sister up.
We're guaranteed to put it to use over here.
You're getting fucking free promo over here.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's get into episode 103. Tonight we're going to be talking about advice from friends. Should you take it or shouldn't you take it? Type shit, because sometimes just because it's coming from a friend doesn't always mean that it's good advice, or sometimes when it is coming from a friend it may be hard to hear. I kind of feel like,
yeah, and more specifically relationship advice.
Yeah,
I think that's where this topic kind of dives in.
So are you gonna start us off, Evo?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this topic kind of came to mind because I feel like at one point or another, everybody's had that friend where, they probably get a little bit too involved in your relationship. Maybe cross the line a little bit, or at some point just feel like because they're such a close friend that maybe they want to steer the relationship in some way or try to be controlling in some way.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's many different ways a friend can influence the relationship that you have with your significant other. And I don't think that's a far-fetched thing to say.
Oh, no, I don't think so at all.
Yeah, and so, I thought that it'd be nice to talk about some of the do's and don'ts, some of the unspoken boundaries that people don't really talk about,
and kind of is from our experience.
Yeah, it's from our experience, and just kind of like sort these things out on the show, and and see how I'm curious to know what you think about some of these things.
I reviewed some of these questions that you have for me, and I will say that one of them was particularly hard for me to answer, but we'll get into that.
All right, so.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I didn't want to cut you off, but the first question I wanted to ask was, what is the proper way to give relationship advice to a friend? So if you are a friend of someone and they are, they have a significant other, and there's something going on in the relationship that you have something to say about, how do you go about giving that advice?
Well, I actually would like to say that I just learned this more recently. You don't give unsolicited advice. I firmly believe now, and I didn't always believe this, because as a friend, I feel like when you love someone who you have been friends with for maybe a long time, because a lot of my friends I've been friends with for a very long time, I felt like they needed to hear what I had to say when it came to advice in a particular situation, whether it was something good going in their relationship or something bad going in their relationship. And I was giving advice in ways that they weren't even hearing what I was saying, because again, it was unsolicited. They were not asking me for advice. So I guess the short answer to that question is the proper way to give relationship advice to a friend is when they ask for the advice. And what I want to add to that, when you're giving the advice, I think some of the best ways to help a friend through something in a relationship, advice-wise, is to kind of ask a lot of questions to help them kind of get to their own answer. I think when they're able to absorb what's being said, when it's coming from them, it's even more impactful. And again, I learned this more recently, and it was because I was going through something with a friend that I sought advice from another kind of like coworker / a person that I'm friendly with, but they're a life coach. So I asked them about, hey, I'm experiencing, this scenario with a friend who's having some relationship issues. How do you think I should go about this? And the first thing they said was, if they're not asking you, don't give it. And listen when they want to be heard. So when your friend is venting to you, that doesn't mean that they're looking for you to input your advice immediately. A lot of the times they're just looking to be listened to. And that's hard for me. Because if anybody knows me, I'm not the best listener. I've been avidly working on that, especially in these type of situations where someone is just looking to be heard. They just want to vent. And I feel like when I'm someone's friend and I love them, I immediately want to be like, well, this is what I think you should do.
I think that is a great answer for this question.
Thanks.
As a friend, it's important to understand that there's a difference between someone venting to you and someone asking you for advice. And it's very important as a friend to understand that, because just because your friend is unloading on you something that they're going through doesn't necessarily mean that they want to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah.
And as a friend, it's key to know when to play that part in order to be a good friend.
Yeah, there's definitely been many times throughout my life as an older woman that I literally have called a friend just to unload on them, just to get off my chest a frustration that I'm going through in my relationship. And I'm not even looking for them to give me any advice, because I kind of a lot of times already know the answer. I just need to vent, because I'm like a kettle that was bubbling and I, needed to let it out. And I'm grateful that I have friends like that. And I think that sort of dynamic should be reciprocated. I also had an experience that really kind of put that in stone for me. And it was a friend of mine that was going through a divorce, and they were venting about a situation that they were going through. And I came across and I said something that I thought was going to make them feel better. And they turned around and said, that's still the father of my children. I don't want this person to be spoken about like that. And that hit me to my core, because that made me realize that what I was saying wasn't uplifting her in any way. It was actually kind of just like putting a darker cloud already on the situation that she already had.
Yeah.
And that was very eye-opening for me. And at that point I was like, man, I just need to listen more than I talk. And the only time I should be talking is when they're asking what it is that I have to say.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Yeah. And I thank her for that. If she listens, she may know who she is.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, unfortunately, have had the experience of going through a couple of friends. I've had the opportunity, I guess, what you call it, to see a couple of my friends get divorced. And in those moments, we end up talking, and the last thing that I'm offering them is my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that in those moments, that was probably the best decision that I could make, because as much as I wanted to say so many things, maybe even give my personal feelings about that person now that the relationship is over, to kind of like, like F them, all that shit, they may be telling me something that how this person did them dirty, and I'm, now I'm developing personal feelings about it because they hurt my friend. And, you kind of like just want to be like team, your boy, or your homegirl.
That's exactly how I was feeling.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the route you want to go about it. But at the end of the day, it's very easy to overlook that you may be still hurting that person's feelings by talking down, just to talking down on the person that they actually still care about. They're hurt, they're venting, but that doesn't mean that they don't care about that person.
Yeah.
And hearing someone speak negatively about that person is even more unpleasant in that moment, especially coming from a friend.
Yeah, that's exactly what the scenario was. And you are 10 times better listener than I am.
I try to be.
I mean, I'm getting there.
You know
I'm
what?
getting there. I want to say out of a scale of 1 to 10, I want to say Evil's like a fucking solid 9 when it comes to being a good listener. I want to say I'm like scratching a 6 right now.
So, but I think you're doing a great job in self-reflecting and, getting to know yourself and building that part of yourself.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for that. I'm definitely doing a deep dive into who I am and what's going to make me a better human being, and really trying to understand this identity that I want to have now for myself versus like who I was a long time ago.
Don't get it twisted. The only difference between you and I, being better listeners or more listeners or however you want to call it, is the ability to understand yourself and your own personal emotions, right? How can you listen to someone else's emotions if you don't fully understand your own emotions, if you're not fully in tune with your own emotions? And because I had this experience in my life early on where I really had to like get in tune with my own emotions and I understood my emotions, that gave me the ability to, when someone is speaking to me about their emotions, to really tune in.
Yeah.
Because I understood my own. But for someone who hasn't really dealt with a lot of trauma or things that they've gone through in life, it's kind of difficult to hear somebody else's emotions, so don't be hard on yourself. I think
we've talked about
you're
this.
doing
Actually,
a great job.
Thank you. We've actually talked about that quite a few times, how you and I both went through traumatic experiences as young children, and how we came out of it were like the polar opposite. Evil became very in tune with his feelings, and I just learned how to bury mine. So it developed us totally different.
Exactly.
Right? But then I guess that's what makes us a yin and a yang. So
Yep.
Ask me the next question.
All right. So the next question is when is it time to draw boundaries on your friend's input on your relationship? When does the red flag pop up? I mean, like when does the Neo hand come out and say no more?
So I actually had this situation happen with a friend. I was going through a really I was in an abusive relationship, and of course I was venting to this friend and telling them all of my trials and tribulations of the relationship that I was in at the time. And when I had to draw a boundary is when that friend wasn't respecting my wishes about how I wanted to go about doing things. So let me give you an example. The person that I was with at the time would have a habit of calling me incessantly, like back to back. And let's say I would be in school, I would be at work, and I literally had this friend take my phone and hang up on that person. And I felt like they weren't respecting my boundaries, even though I was annoyed by it, even though I was being vocal. You stepped over my own personal boundaries. Because one, that's my phone, so don't touch my personal items, because you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number two, as frustrated as I was at that person at that time, we had children together, and I still had to communicate to them. You had no right to place yourself in a position of this like power where you felt like it was okay to dismiss that other person from my life at that moment. That was one example. And that's when I had to draw a boundary of, I actually said to myself, I think I need to take a step back on how much information I'm allowing this person to know when it comes to my current relationship. I may need to seek a better source of relying upon giving my information to like a therapist or like a counselor. And because I could see how it was making her frustrated, and it was making her angry, because she felt like I was in a situation that was so unhealthy for me, and she thought, again, like how I thought with my friend, that she was empowering me at that point in time. But she wasn't. She was actually kind of disrespecting me in that sense. But I understood her intent behind it. So that's when I had to draw a boundary. And then the other way is when your friend decides that because the information that they have received about your significant other, they may not find it in the best light. They then choose to disrespect your significant other when they are in the same presence. I think that's when it's time to like literally draw the line and be like, listen, I understand that I have shared with you some really maybe bad situations that I've been through with this person, but that does not give you the right to disrespect them because they have not done something to you. I understand that they've done it to me, but I in no way, shape, or form are asking for you to do this. This doesn't make me feel better. This is not helping my situation. I think that's when it's time to say, I understand that you want to be team me or team Jeanna, like how you just said, but this is not helping the situation in any given way.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example on when it's time to start, chalking up some white lines.
And to be honest, like, I understand that person's position.
Right.
In that regard, I understand that they think that they're doing the best thing for me. They feel like they're trying to potentially hurt the person that's hurting me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in turn, what it's actually doing is making the situation for me even worse. Because then I'm more than likely going to go home and have to deal with my significant other looking at me like, why is your friend being a fucking asshole? And that just brings more drama into my life.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's definitely a great example amongst many. I think that once your friend starts saying, fuck this person.
Yeah.
I think if at any point in time, whether you're dating a guy or a girl and your friend says, fuck that person because of something that they did to you, I think that you've maybe at that point revealed too much. Mm-hmm. At the point, whenever your friend starts getting emotionally affected by the relationship that you're having with your significant other, I think it's time to start creating a little bit of distance on what it is that you tell that person. Because at that point, they're becoming emotionally involved in something when they're supposed to be emotionally supportive in any way possible. And definitely time to draw up some lines.
Very well said. You basically just regurgitated what I said, but you said it so eloquently. And you know why? Because I feel like you were listening to me and you were kind of like...
Yeah.
You were listening to what I said.
I'm summarizing it in
and
my
you
head.
were summarizing it, but when I was explaining it, I was very in the moment. I was telling you my answer, but I was thinking about the moments in my life that I actually had to draw those boundaries.
Yeah. Another red flag, I think, that where it's time to draw boundaries is when your best friend or your close friend or whoever it is that you're confiding about your relationship and they actually try to start to manipulate a little bit your relationship in ways where maybe they're trying to like get you to cancel plans with this person or like trying to get you to spend less time with them. Those are red flags you definitely want to watch out for sure.
Yeah. I think at that point, it's probably best for you to say to your friend, listen, I understand why you are trying to do these things. I know that you have my best interest at ham.
At ham?
What did I say?
Your best interest at ham?
Yeah, at hand. I know that you have my best interest at hand. I think it would probably be best for you to explain why that particular action is not going to be helpful so that they better understand.
Yeah.
I think that's why therapy is such an amazing thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I actually just listened to a podcast day before yesterday, and it was with Brene Brown and Viola Davis, and Viola Davis said something in the podcast that I never ever looked at it this way, and it was such an eye-opener for me. And she said that she never really looked at therapy in a way like, why am I paying this person $100 plus an hour to fucking just to listen to me? And what she realizes that a therapist is a guide. They help guide you through life.
Yeah.
And they help give you the tools to be better equipped to handle situations from your past and your present and your future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I never fucking looked at it like that. I just thought, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm just going to tell this person all of my fucking deepest, darkest, horrific experiences in my life and how those things made me feel. And then I'm going to walk out of there and I'm going to feel better. I never looked at it like I'm going to walk out of there and I'm going to have a different tool with me every time I step out of there. And I think sometimes we think it's just okay to talk to our friends because we think that that's going to make us feel better. But our friends not all the time are going to be able to give us those tools to guide us.
Yeah. Great advice, for sure.
Yeah. So thank you for that podcast. And I highly recommend it. Brene Brown interviewing Viola Davis. They were talking about her book, which I'm going to read that shit.
Sounds great. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. So last question. Por favor.
So kind of going to flip sides of here a little bit. I feel like that these first two questions have started off on some very negative notes on, red flags that pop up on, when your friends have crossed the line and it's time to draw boundaries. But, friends can be great and, and also aid you when you need to be. And so, in respect to that, what would you say is the best relationship advice that you've gotten from a friend?
This was the question that I had to think long and hard about.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, I was about to say, why is that?
Well, because you know that I wasn't one to really talk about my problems. So because I wasn't really one, I spoke to my friends about very surface level things. It wasn't until more recently that I really started to open up. I used to think that me sharing my problems or great experiences with friends came across either as me gloating or me being a burden. So for a very long time, I didn't share a lot of things that were happening in my life. So I had to think really long and hard about what was the best relationship advice I ever received. And it's from a family member who I also consider a very good friend.
You know what? I'm sitting here thinking the same thing, and I'm agreeing with you in the sense that, like, my best advice came from a family member as well. So go ahead.
And this person is I'm just gonna say it's my sister-in-law. And
okay,
there was a situation where we potentially, or I'm gonna say there was a moment where it was discussed your mother coming to stay with us. And I remember my immediate thought was absolutely not. And I had a lot of feelings about that situation, and I don't need to get into that, but I think you know why I immediately was like, absolutely not.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember that not being very well received by you.
No.
Yeah. And then that same weekend, we went to go visit my brother. And of course, me and my sister-in-law got to talking, and I explained to her the situation because I love talking to her. And there is something that she does that no one else can do. She like instills this humility in me. And we were in the kitchen and we were talking, and I told her, and maybe I get a little emotional right now, but she was like, Jeanna, you need to be kind.
Wow.
She was like, and it's not for her, it's for him. You need to be kind. And I was like, fuck. And it was just so simplistic what she said to me, but it cut so deep.
Yeah, I can see how, because it was the simplicity of it that really, like, it was, the answer was right in front of your face, but you were so wrapped up in what you were thinking that you were almost blinded by.
Oh yeah, I was so wrapped up in my own feelings about how I felt about your mother and our relationship over the past 20 something years, that I was totally removing you from the equation. And she just like put you in the forefront of that just by saying something so simple, and I will always dearly love her for that.
She got you through that moment, huh?
Yeah. And I can tell you that there is no other human being that has ever been able to impact me so deeply with like empathy and like compassion, because when she said it to me, I could tell that it was coming from pure love and caring, and it came from such a place of sincerity that I was like, God damn it, she's so fucking right. Like, how could I have been so stupid?
Well,
so,
thank you, sister-in-law, for that.
Yeah, shout out to Erica.
I didn't want to put her name out there, but
it's okay. Fuck it. I said sister-in-law. It's not like people,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. Do we have time for me to kind of share mine a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Just wanted to double check there. You don't want to cross timelines here. So mine is it's a little on the lighter side. It's not as emotionally impactful as yours was. There wasn't that big of a.
I didn't think that it was gonna make me feel like
an
that.
Emotional struggle that I was going through, but it was a pivoting point in my life where I looked at relationships totally different. And this advice came from my father. And I was going through a relationship with a girl. She was older than I was. I was very, very young. I was in my teens. So I didn't have a lot of relationship experience. And I was dating an older girl. And when I tell you, as far as a relationship goes, she had me wrapped around her finger. And I don't want to say like a sucker. I just want to say like that she just knew all the moves, how to maneuver the relationship to her favor. And I was just kind of like, dancing along. And I remember one day my dad sees me and he's, he could just tell I'm stressed out, and he asked me, he's like, well, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, this girl, it's like every time I want to hang out with her, she's never around. She shows up when she wants to, she answers my call when she wants to, and like I really like her. And every time we're together, we have a great time. But it's like, it's always on her terms. Everything's on her terms. And he said, well, then stop calling her. And I said, what do you mean? Like, I want to hang out with her. Like, what?
He was like, what?
I'm like, what do you mean stop calling? He goes, do me a favor. He goes, well, how does it make you feel? The idea of you not speaking to her for 2 or 3 days. I said, I can't. It hurts. He said, well, you need to do what you got to do to process your emotions. He goes, if you got to cry, go to the bathroom, lock yourself in the bathroom and cry. He goes, but do not call her from this day forward. Don't call her. He said, I guarantee you in 3 days she'll be at your front door. And I'm like, what? He goes, she'll be ringing the doorbell. And I was like, and I was confused, but as my father, I followed his advice and I did. I cried. I was very I was so tormented by the fact that like I didn't know where she was and I know what she was doing and I really wanted to be with her and I was fighting these emotions, but I did what he told me to do. And lo and behold, in 3 days, this girl was at my front doorstep ringing my doorbell. And he told me what to say to her when she came. I said, play it cool, act like you didn't realize 3 days went by, and just, he goes, try not to show her that you care too much. And from that point on, the tables turned in that relationship. And I was able to, at any point in time, if I felt like the scales were shifting in her favor, I was able to, to counterbalance that by just letting off of the attention that I was giving. I was giving her way too much attention and I didn't realize it. I was, and yeah, and she just thought that, she had me wrapped around her finger and she can come and go as she pleases. She was older, and I guarantee you that she was, I mean, who the hell knows what she was doing, but it was definitely the best advice that I ever gave.
I'm just imagining little Evo in the bathroom crying like, this fucking bitch.
Yeah, like I was so mad that, like that she wouldn't call me, and she wasn't answering my text messages and, and I didn't know where she was and like, and I'm sending messages with people like, yo, tell her to, I'm looking for her and nothing, no response. So like it made me feel like she didn't care about me. But then when she was with me, like she really showed me that she cared about me. So I was very confused, but yeah, definitely the best advice. So any of you youngins out there, listening to this, and you're in that situation, give it a try.
All right. So my first question to you is, throwing shame on your partner to your friends, good or not good?
So,
or your overall thoughts?
I think that this is a slippery slope because depending on the type of friend that you have, they may not be able to handle hearing some of the complications that you're dealing with when it comes to the significant other. If your friend really cares about you and they hear that you're being mistreated by somebody that you really care about, they may take those, feelings personal. And in addition to that, if you're like really venting in a way where you're cursing this person out, you're like saying, this motherfucker, did this and that, and I can't believe he had the audacity to fucking say this shit to me. And then, he disrespected me in a way, and I can't believe this. And he's like, such an asshole and blah, 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 blah. Your friend may start feeling like, that way about them. But see, now the difference is that you're going to turn around and possibly make up with your significant other, and you guys are going to move past it. But your best friend doesn't. They're not making up with anything. They're just internalizing these feelings, and they're not going anywhere. So they start to develop these negative feelings towards your significant others. So I think it really depends on the person. You really need to know whether your friend can hear some of these things. Because me personally, I'd like to call myself an unbiased person, as to where, like, if you tell me something, you tell me, and I try to just to be an open ear. I really try not to take what you tell me personal, because I want to be there for you as a friend. And so, but not everybody's like that. So I think that, throwing dirt on your significant other is something that you should really be cautious with, because it may turn into something a lot more than just you venting to your friend.
I think that that's great advice, but let me ask you, like, I guess a second part to this question then,
okay.
Because you said that you need to know if your friend is able to hear that type of information. How do you think you can distinguish whether or not your friend can actually hear this type of information?
That's a great question. I mean, you gotta test the waters a bit. You gotta give them a little bit, see how they handle it. You really want to kind of put that through a trial run, or in some way, and that's just one example. Just try to see if your friend is able to take that kind of information, because it's not for everybody. I
want to add to that a little bit.
Okay.
I want to say that I'm actually, here, just look at that really quick. I want to say that I'm actually really good at an indicator of who I can tell things to and who I can't tell things to.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you one of the ways that I'm able to observe that in somebody. I watch how they receive information from other avenues in their life and how they handle it.
That's one way to do it. Sure.
If they're constantly calling me and complaining to me about work, but then they're not vocalizing it, and they're not dealing with these frustrations. If they are the type of person that tends to complain a lot, but doesn't take any action to help themselves remove some of the frustrations in their life. So when I see those type of things, I'm very, excuse me, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. I know that that is the type of person I can't tell them that type of stuff, because they're going to internalize it and they're going to carry it with them. I think because I do makeup for my profession, a lot of people have sat in my chair and they have told me a lot of things that I sometimes am shocked by the shit that I'm told. And I'm always very surprised how deep and open people are, the things that people are willing to tell me. And I'm also very shocked by how outrageous some of the stuff is that people are willing to tell me. So when I feel this type of energy from someone, when they're just willing to go off the rails about sometimes minuscule things in their life, I'm like, yeah, I can't share that type of information.
But you're really shocked by it? I think
Evo, if you were to hear some of the stories that I've heard while I've done makeup on someone, you'd be fucking blown away.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I can see how you're blown away, but do you not see the how that's the perfect environment for someone to speak freely like that?
Oh, I totally disagree with that. I would never.
I know you would never, but this,
why would you be telling a total stranger your deepest, darkest secrets?
Because you can't trust anybody in your close circle to even speak that way.
Well, then maybe you should reevaluate your close circle.
That sounds
like an oxymoron to me. I can't confide in my closest circle.
Maybe. I mean, fine. Yeah, maybe they should reevaluate. But for the time being, they find themselves sitting in front of somebody that makes them feel very comfortable and is doing something to them that makes them feel very relaxed. And in that moment, they just want to talk. And talk to somebody that doesn't know them, that they can tell some personal stuff to, let it off their chest, and not be judged because the person doesn't even know them.
I could understand why that scenario.
It's the perfect scenario for some people.
But that doesn't mean the stuff that they tell me I'm not going to be shocked by.
Oh no, okay. Maybe I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah.
I felt like that you were shocked that they were telling you.
No, I was shocked at some of the shit that I heard.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can imagine. I mean, this is like random stuff that you're hearing.
I know. And people who do nails, people who do makeup, people who do hair. We're fucking therapists.
They're low key therapists.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
all right. I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought that you were just shocked, like that they would tell you. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard some shocking shit.
Yeah, I've actually been appalled by some of the things that I've heard sometimes. So for me, I pick up on those red flags in people, and I know who I can say and who I cannot say things to. Luckily, I have some really great friends that I can fucking tell them anything. So my next question for you is, how do you handle your friend trash talking their significant other 1 minute and then they're booed up the next minute?
That's a tough one. Not a tough one for me. A tough one because I've seen people deal with these things. Mm-hmm. And this is why, as a friend, you have to be unbiased when you listen to your friend vent. You just got to be as supportive as you can to your friend. You got to be there with them through thick and thin. Because understand this. I know people that have taken personal feelings and have developed personal feelings against their friend's significant others because, you know, their friend is going through something with that person. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days, however much time it takes for them to make up with their significant other, they're back with them as if nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And then yet here you are as the friend, now like not only mind blown, but still very angry at what you've heard happen within this relationship. Mm-hmm. So my advice to people in this situation is just be a friend. Okay. Friends, you know, help each other up when they're down. Friends are supportive to each other. Friends listen to each other. Mm-hmm. Anything more than that, you know, I think you're crossing the line. You know, you're crossing a boundary that you shouldn't cross.
I don't know if you could tell while you were talking. I like have a totally different thought process about that.
I mean, I could tell something was going on.
Yeah. Because as you were saying it, I'm going to tell you my immediate thoughts while you were saying that. In that situation, I think there's something happening in that dynamic that you're missing. And I think it's really unfair for the friend that is unloading on their friend, trash talking their significant other, and then the next minute they're back with them. And then they're just expecting their friend to, in your advice, just to continue to be supportive. Mm-hmm. I think the friend that is hearing the negative talk should set a boundary with that friend and say, hey, listen, you know, you've come to me a couple times talking shit about John. And then in a couple days later, you're back with him. So it seems like this is the way that you function with him. It's hard for me to hear this type of information.
Yeah.
And I no longer can positively support you as a friend when I know that this is the constant cycle that you're going to be going through. So for my health and for my mind, I don't think that I can have you any longer share with me these type of situations that you're going through with him. I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to be supportive of you. But when it comes to this, I don't think that you should share this information with me and maybe find a better outlet for you to do this.
Yeah, no.
Because I don't think that the friend at that point is respecting you.
Okay. Listen, and that's your personal opinion. And that's where, you know, that's where me and you differ. And I understand why you would say those things. But I wouldn't. I would continue to be a friend. I would, in those moments, test my ability. I would put my, what is the word I'm looking for? I would be putting my limits to the test as far as how much of this can I really endure and still be this person's friend. Like these are the moments where you really find out, you know, where your friendship really lies. How much of this can you actually take? Because I feel like that's it's kind of growth for me as a friend, you know, being able to hear stuff like that and not take it personal, you know, still be there for him. I feel like that in that moment there was a divide that happened for you where you were like, you know what, this has gone too far for me. I can't listen to this anymore. So I am not here for you as a friend in this aspect. You said, like you literally said, you need to find another outlet.
Yeah, because I don't think that your friend in that moment is being there for you.
Okay. You know, and listen,
I think it's unhealthy
I
for you.
respect that.
I think it's unhealthy for you as a friend to constantly hear negative information about that person's significant other,
and then they go back
in turn
and
they go back to
and they're with them.
especially Evo, if it's a really bad situation. I'm not telling you to tell the friend, hey, listen, fuck off. But when I mean find another outlet, find an outlet that, like I said, like a therapist that's going to guide you, because you're just unloading on me. That's not healthy for me.
Right. And
that's not healthy. That's not healthy for my mental health.
And I totally understand you. And I respect what you're saying. I'm speaking for myself. That I would, I don't know. I just have this ability to not take those things personal. I have a
I have the same ability. I can have my friends tell me things over and over again and I'm not taking it personal, but that doesn't mean that the conversation is healthy for me. I'm like making a very big difference there in that regard.
Okay, so if something's not healthy for you, you're ingesting it in one way or another.
Yeah, because I'm listening to them. Of course.
Right. So but there's I hear you and I'm listening.
Well, when my friends are unloading on me, a lot of the times, I'm really trying to be an active listener.
Sometimes your friends, they need you to hear them, and sometimes your friends, they just need you to listen.
Okay,
right.
And
so
I do both.
For me, there's a difference, right? Hearing them is I'm listening and I'm totally processing what it is that they're saying, right? Listening is I just got an open ear and it's just going out the other ear. So in certain moments, I know when I need to be listening and I know when I need to be hearing them. And so I feel like that in those moments, I'll just be listening to them.
I just want to be completely honest. As we're sitting here and we're talking, I'm projecting on you a little bit because I tend to worry about you a lot and the way you absorb things. And I feel like you will put the weight of the world on your shoulders at the expense of you. And that makes me angry. So when you say this to me, that you're willing to be supportive no matter what a friend is saying or the situation that they're putting you in, I always sit back and I say, but what about Evo? That's my thought process. And so that's why I'm kind of like pushing back on what you're saying a little bit.
You can push back all you want because the way you're processing it is the way Jeanna sees it.
Of course. I just said that. I just said that I'm projecting.
Right. Exactly. But you're not, and you'll never see it the way that I do. You'll only be able to understand it the way that you process these type of situations. Your grasp and your concept of how these situations are handled are just through your own experiences, right? You'll never know what it's like to process these things through my experience, right?
Yeah, no, I know.
And so based on that, there's something that you're missing that I'll never be able to explain to you. And that's why you feel like I put the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I'm telling you the weight goes on one shoulder and it rolls off the other one. And that's the part that you're missing. Like
the lollipops are missing.
The lollipops are missing. That's a quote from our daughter. I
just wanted to be transparent.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the first time that you've projected that to me.
Yeah. Listen, what do you want me to do? It's supposed to death do you part. So I'm not trying to have you. I'm not trying to have you exit early. So my last question for you is, how do you handle your best friend's significant other doing them dirty, but they still want to be in a relationship? So I guess to give you a little, scenario, if your friend comes to you and said, my partner cheated on me and they did XYZ. You know, maybe it's like a really bad situation. How do you feel about that?
You know, that's a slippery slope. Because
that's a hard situation, because I've actually had this situation happen.
It is a very hard situation. I think that if it's something that happened one time, you know, there's
But what if it didn't, Evo?
Well, that, I mean, I'm gonna get there, right? Let's start at, if it just happened one time. I think you're trying to pass go and not collect $200. You know, if it happened one time, then, you know, if they work it out, me as my, you know, my best friend, I'm gonna try to work it out with my friend, you know, and we're gonna try to be, you know, trying to coexist amongst each other. But if it's something that is repeatedly happening, I'm going to try and have my friend's best interest at heart, and that can mean a multitude of things depending on what the situation is. But I'm really gonna try to influence my friend to make what I believe are better decisions in the best way possible. There's only so much you can do. You know, people are gonna do what they want. You know, and if they're being done dirty, if that my friend is being done dirty by the person that they're with, and they keep going back to them, then there's obviously there's more than what I'm saying that's affecting them emotionally.
Let me ask you a two-part to that question. Would you still be around your friend's significant other?
I would definitely try and limit it as best as possible.
Why? For someone that has just spoken about being like the supportive friend and not taking it personal.
Being there for my friend. Yeah, absolutely. It's not something where I'm like, oh, you need to, like, because I feel like some people will be like, hey, fuck this motherfucker or fuck this person. You know, you need to leave them. You know, there are friends that will say that straight out. You need to leave this motherfucker. He's no good for you, or she's no good for you. And if this continues, bro, like, I can't be your fucking friend. You know, like, that's not something that I would do. But am I going to want to be around that person? No. Do I want to surround myself with people like that? No, absolutely not. So I would.
So then, what do you do? What do you do in the situation of, hey, I'm having a party at my house,
and my friend invites me? I'm gonna show up for my friend. I'm definitely gonna show up for my friend. I'm not gonna allow this person to come between me and my friend.
I applaud you on that.
Thank you.
Because I don't think, depending on what the scenario is, I may choose to not participate in that particular situation.
This is a tough subject.
Yeah,
you know
that's why I said I applaud you, because I'm putting myself in that position, and I've actually been in that situation.
Yeah, if my friend is still wanting to be, you know, with me, like as far as a friend goes, I'm gonna try to be there for them. Yeah, you know, there are situations where my friend will realize that it's a complicated situation. They obviously want to be with that person, and they know that I don't approve. So rather than dealing with my disapproval or feeling my disapproval, they may cut my relationship off so that they can be with that person. Yeah,
and then that's such a red flag.
You know, but
that's so unhealthy.
And at that point, you know, you got to let the ship sail. You know, if that's the choice that they want to make with their life, then I'm going to respect that. You know, I'm not going to hold no feelings against them. And like, you know, listen, you know, to each their own. You know, everybody's got to live their own life and experience their own things that make them who they are. Yeah. And if at that point in your life, you know, there's, you know, you're at a crossroad where you feel like I need to go left and pursue this thing and, you know, leave our relationship behind, then that's going to be part of your life and your growth and your journey. And I'm going to respect that. That's a decision you made. But if you choose to continue our friendship, I'm going to be there for you as best as possible. But if this person is doing things that are bad to you, I'm definitely going to try to limit the time that I spend around that person, you know, because I don't want to be around that energy.
Yeah. And that's why I told you, I think I would choose to exclude myself in certain situations. I'm big on energy, and I don't like surrounding myself with people that don't make me feel good. And it would be hard for me to put myself in that position when I know that my friend's significant other or ex-spouse or whatever it is has done them wrong, and now I have to be in the same presence of them. I would really try hard. I would. But, you know, maybe out of 5 situations, maybe I may only attend 2.
Yeah.
Where I know that, like I said, I applaud you in that, because I know that, like Evo said, it goes on one shoulder and rolls off the other.
You know,
I'm gonna walk in there with a stank face.
I'm gonna try to save my friend in any way possible. And I'm gonna, the only way that's gonna happen is if I'm present in their life. But if they give me a sign that, they're not really willing to entertain our friendship and they really would just want to be all into this thing that they're with, then hey, more power to you.
I think that's a great way to end this, Evo. More power
Agreed.
to you.
More power to you.
Yeah, and this was a really good conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
I was not expecting to get emotional, but I also thought about that question for quite a while, because I was just like, "Fuck, what was the best advice I ever got from a friend?" So it put me in a different place in my head, and so I always enjoy talking to you.
Agreed. Likewise.
I hope you enjoy talking to me, even though I'm not the best listener. I'm on a level 6 right now.
You're getting it. You're getting better.
I'm getting it.
I hope that our viewers and our listeners were able to get something out of this episode. We really like to have these conversations and open up about our experiences in hopes that we reach out to someone and are able to guide them with our experiences and get them through some things that they may be struggling with.
Well, we actually just had someone comment on one of our posts that said that this conversation was, or one of our past conversations was so positive and it had such a good flow to it, and that they applaud us for having the ability to have these type of conversations where we obviously have a difference of opinion and we're allowing the other one to really speak their thoughts. And I was like happy about that, because like I said, I'm not the best listener. So when someone tells me that we're doing a good job, having this conversation, I'm like, all right, we're going to.
Thank you for that comment.
Listen, at the end of the day, I think one of our biggest goals is to be relatable. We want people to know that you're not alone in the world, and that a lot of couples go through a lot of these situations, and there's a lot of dynamics that sometimes you think, oh fuck, am I the only person that's going through this? And you're definitely not. So we want to be that person, or that couple rather, that you can find that relation to, and it be spoken in a way that is easily digested. There's times that I've listened to podcasts that they have like doctors or scientists. I'm like, what the is this person talking about?
Hopefully we'll get there one day. I'm
fucking lost. Like sometimes I listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I fucking love this guy, but he goes into outer. He literally goes into outer space. He's a fucking space
cadet for real.
And I'm like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But I'm just gonna keep listening.
Well, and and in addition to that, I think that it's great that people can see that in a relationship, as long as ours has lasted, that there are still many relatable experiences that we go through that are very common, that happen in relationships, and that people need to understand that, that
I actually commented back to that person. I said, this is 20 years. This is what 20 years looks like, right? But don't get it twisted, because when we press stop recording, I stopped listening. No, I'm just joking.
She checks the fuck out.
That's enough listening for one day for me. But no, I'm just joking. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, until next Friday, until you come hang out with us again, and I don't know what the fuck we're going to be talking about, but this is Shit Talk Friday. We'll figure something out. We'll figure it out. But until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.
Peace out.